It was a beautiful morning at London Heathrow Airport. The sun was shining brightly, casting a golden hue over the bustling tarmac. The sky was clear, a perfect blue canvas stretching endlessly above. British Airways Flight 762, bound for Auckland, New Zealand, was preparing for a routine departure. The aircraft, a majestic Boeing 747, stood ready at the gate, its engines silent but full of potential. Passengers boarded the Boeing 747, eager to begin their journeys. Families, business travelers, and adventurers alike, each with their own stories and destinations, settled into their seats, anticipating the long flight ahead. The crew ran their final checks, meticulously going through each item on their extensive pre-flight checklist. They were seasoned professionals, confident in their roles, yet unaware of the danger lurking beneath the surface. Flight 762 taxied to the runway and received clearance for takeoff. The anticipation built as the aircraft slowly made its way to the starting point of its long journey. The engines roared to life, propelling the massive aircraft down the tarmac. The power of the engines was palpable, a force that pushed everyone back into their seats as the plane gained speed. The plane lifted smoothly into the air, beginning its ascent to cruising altitude. The ground fell away beneath them, and the passengers watched as the world below became a patchwork of fields and buildings. Everything seemed normal, a textbook takeoff. The aircraft climbed steadily, the engines humming a reassuring tune as they pushed the plane higher and higher. Little did anyone know a simple oversight would soon turn this routine flight into a fight for survival. The calm and confidence of the crew and passengers would soon be tested in ways they could never have imagined. Unbeknownst to the passengers and crew, a small but critical error had been made during overnight maintenance. The maintenance crew, working diligently under the dim lights of the airport, had unknowingly made a mistake that would soon put everyone on board at risk. Several windshield panels on the Boeing 747 were secured with incorrect bolts. These bolts, though appearing identical to the correct ones, lacked the necessary strength and durability. These bolts, visually indistinguishable from the correct ones, were not strong enough to withstand the stresses of flight at high altitudes. The difference was subtle, but the consequences could be catastrophic. As the aircraft climbed higher, the pressure difference between the cabin and the outside grew. The serene view from the windows belied the growing tension within the aircraft's structure. The faulty bolts began to strain under the increasing load. Minute by minute, the pressure mounted, pushing the bolts to their limits. Inside the cabin, passengers settled into their seats, unaware of the silent threat developing outside. They chatted, read books and watched movies, completely oblivious to the danger. Flight attendants began their meal service, the familiar routine of air travel unfolding as usual. The clinking of cutlery and the hum of conversation filled the cabin, masking any hint of the impending crisis. But in the cockpit, the first sign of trouble was about to appear. The pilots, trained to notice even the slightest anomaly, began to sense that something was amiss. Their instruments started to show unusual readings, hinting at the underlying issue that was about to surface. A soft, muffled popping sound reached the pilot's ears. It was subtle, easily dismissed as insignificant cabin noise. However, Captain Tim Lancaster, a veteran pilot with thousands of flight hours, felt a flicker of unease. He couldn't shake off the feeling that something was amiss. He shared his concern with his co-pilot, Alastair Atchison, who at first dismissed it as nothing serious. They continued their routine checks, monitoring the aircraft's systems for any anomalies. Minutes passed and the strange popping sounds persisted, growing slightly louder each time. The unease in the cockpit intensified. Captain Lancaster's gaze swept across the instrument panel, searching for any indication of trouble. Suddenly his eyes fell on a discrepancy in the cabin pressure readings. It was subtle but significant enough to raise alarm. The cabin altitude was slowly increasing, indicating a potential leak. The pilots exchanged a worried look. The popping sounds, the cabin pressure anomaly, the pieces of the puzzle were starting to fall into place. They knew they needed to act quickly and decisively. They had a serious problem on their hands. Section 5. Mounting tension. The situation escalated rapidly. The popping sounds intensified, accompanied by a loud hissing noise. The windshield in front of Captain Lancaster shattered with a deafening boom. The force of the decompression was immense. Captain Lancaster, still strapped into his seat, was partially sucked out of the cockpit. His legs were pinned against the control column. his upper body exposed to the deafening roar of the wind and the frigid temperatures at 17,000 feet. Section 6. A race against time. Inside the cabin, chaos erupted. Oxygen masks dropped from the ceiling. Passengers screamed, terrified by the sudden decompression and the sight of debris flying through the cabin. Flight attendants, trained for emergencies, struggled to maintain calm and direct passengers to put on their oxygen masks. In the cockpit, First Officer Atchison fought to control the aircraft, which was now bucking wildly due to the sudden pressure change. He grabbed Captain Lancaster's legs, desperately trying to pull him back into the cockpit. The situation seemed dire. Section 7. Emergency in the air. Amidst the chaos, the crew of Flight 762 swung into action. Their training took over. First Officer Atchison, struggling to control the aircraft and hold on to Captain Lancaster, managed to send out a mayday call. The flight attendants worked tirelessly to calm the terrified passengers and ensure everyone had an oxygen mask. The situation was critical. The aircraft was difficult to control. Captain Lancaster was still partially ejected from the cockpit, his life hanging by a thread. The crew knew they had to get the plane down to a lower altitude where the air was breathable. Section 8. Calm amidst chaos. Despite the terrifying situation, a sense of eerie calm descended upon the cockpit. First Officer Atchison, realizing the urgency, focused on regaining control of the aircraft. He fought against the wind, managing to stabilize the plane and initiate a rapid descent. Meanwhile, two cabin crew members, John Heward and Simon Rogers, risked their lives by entering the cockpit. They clung desperately to Captain Lancaster's legs, forming a human chain to prevent him from being completely pulled out of the aircraft. Their courage and quick thinking were remarkable. Section 9. The landing. As the plane descended, the air grew thicker, providing some relief from the decompression. First Officer Atchison, guided by air traffic control, skillfully maneuvered the crippled aircraft towards London Gatwick Airport. The emergency services were on standby, ready to provide immediate assistance. 22 minutes after the windshield blew out, Flight 762 touched down on the runway. The landing was rough, but the aircraft held together. As the plane came to a stop, a wave of relief washed over everyone on board. They had survived a near catastrophe. Section 10. Aftermath and Investigation. Immediately after the landing, Captain Lancaster was rushed to the hospital. Miraculously, despite being partially sucked out of the aircraft at 17,000 feet, he survived with only minor injuries. The rest of the crew and passengers disembarked safely, shaken but alive. The incident sent shockwaves through the aviation industry. A full investigation revealed that the windshield had been secured with incorrect bolts during maintenance. The bolts, visually similar to the correct ones, were not strong enough for the application. This seemingly minor oversight had nearly led to a catastrophic disaster. Section 11. Lessons learned. The near tragedy of British Airways Flight 762 served as a stark reminder of the importance of meticulous maintenance procedures in aviation. This incident underscored the critical need for regular and thorough inspections, ensuring that every component of an aircraft is in optimal condition before takeoff. The incident led to significant changes in safety protocols, including stricter regulations regarding the identification and use of aircraft parts. These new regulations mandated that all parts must be clearly marked and traceable, ensuring that only certified components are used in aircraft maintenance and repairs. The heroism of the crew, particularly First Officer Atchison and the cabin crew members who risked their lives to save Captain Lancaster, became the stuff of legend. Their actions during the crisis were not only brave but also a testament to their rigorous training and dedication to their roles. Their quick thinking, bravery, and unwavering commitment to the safety of their passengers exemplified the best of humanity in the face of extreme adversity. The crew's ability to remain calm under pressure and execute emergency procedures flawlessly was a key factor in averting a potential disaster. The incident serves as a powerful testament to the importance of human resilience and the critical role of training and preparedness in averting disaster. It highlighted the necessity for continuous training programs that simulate real-life emergency scenarios, ensuring that all aviation personnel are equipped to handle any situation that may arise. This event has since been incorporated into training modules worldwide, serving as a case study for future generations of pilots and crew members.